everyone, to another exciting episode of We Empower. I'm thrilled to have you all with us today. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be inspired. Let's make today count. In today's episode, we will have great guests here to introduce. It's first and foremost, it is Renée Elliott. Well, I don't know where to start to introduce her, but just if I have to do it with a few words, she's Planet Organic. And yeah, how to say, brought into life. She's a Planet Organic founder, but this is even more because she brought the special food industry to UK, and she's a a mind sharer, and somebody who shares a mind, somebody who is giving us other ideas of opinion, who's coach, who's mentor. She's so much. I think I should need an hour to talk about her. So that is Renée Elliott. We have an hour talk show. And later on, we have Kosta Koshalenko, the Deputy Minister for Social Policy of Ukraine, with his new book, Management and Times of War. So enjoy, have fun, and I'm looking forward to having you here for the next hour. I'm very happy to welcome to the show Renée Elliott. With Planet Organic, Renée Elliott dare to challenge the food industry, pioneering organic shopping in the UK. With her coaching and mentoring business, she supports the challengers of many. Her journey is a passion is full of passion and purpose and fearless change. And Renée, I'm just stopping talking about you because all the time, because you did so many things to the people. And as somebody who knows what organic food means, I think you have changed the word for many people. Welcome here to the show.
That's very kind. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here today.
Renée, we have the tradition that everybody who's here on the show can choose a song. And you've chosen two songs, and both songs, I mean, we don't know each other that much. I mean, we don't know each other at all, that really to say. But I know you, I have the feeling that I know you over everything, what you did and what I could read about you. And from my feelings, both songs are saying so much about you. I mean, the first song with imagination, I think it needs a lot of imagination if you start like you, and if somebody continues like you, getting back your baby, getting back into a new world, into new challenges, and mastering them, and also stepping into a world which is full of challenges if we talk about mentoring and coaching. And on the other hand, the other song from Just Line, I Will Be There, I think nobody could say it like you, I will be there, because you were there at exactly the time where there was a need to be there. Organic food means more than just eating. And coaching and mentoring means more than just talking or listening to a person, right?
Thank you. Yes, it's funny because songs are so interesting, and that Harry Connick song it's because I grew up listening to Frank Sinatra, and
Yeah.
Harry Connick was my modern version of Frank, and that song with imagination, I'll Get There, is everything for me because everything in life is a problem to be solved and a lesson to be learned.
Yeah.
And I love how you framed the other song, I'll Be There, because that I see as the coaching part of what I do. And I'm there. And, I've always got enough love to share for everyone, for my family, friends, clients, I have a huge circle of people. But also, you're right, when Planet needed me, when it was on the brink of administration, it took me a little while to get there because when I got the phone call, I was like, yeah, no, I'm a coach now. And it was a 2 week journey for me to realize that I could actually step back in, but I'm there. And I did step back in, which was a massive shift in my life.
I can imagine, Renee, and you have here somebody, I don't know if you know that. I mean, I'm really not only a big fan of eating the right stuff. I studied this because I figured out on my own body what difference it makes and how much it is important to bring together, on the one hand, food, and on the other hand, the right mental food. So, bringing this together was for me a quite holistic concept, which saved my life at that time. And having you here, who is in person bringing this together, means means so much to me.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And
Well,
Renee, I was so shocked. I mean, this is not a question I've prepared for you, but I have to say that I was so shocked because I got, because of wrong food and wrong medical treatment, and autoimmune illness. And having the school medicine people saying you will never be able to live a normal life
oh,
was yeah, was for me the start into a new life, and into a
mm,
very into life filled with a lot of joy, and with a lot of understanding of myself. And you coming from both sides, I mean, I think you understand why we have such an increase of autoimmune illnesses, 300% over the last 30 years in Western Europe, $100 billion a year in Europe for autoimmune illnesses, but just 5% of research done in this field, where we are talking over 100 different autoimmune illnesses, and know that food and mental health plays a huge, significant role there.
absolutely. And the problem is so colossal that one could easily be overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But what I realized is, so the I start with the understanding or the belief that your body is the greatest gift you have in
Hmm.
this journey of your life on earth. And I realized that at a very young age. And the other part of that is when I was 19, I realized that nobody was really looking after my best interests. And for me, it felt like the end of innocence. I was brought up in a small town, very sweet childhood. And then when I was 19 and at university, I read about the meat industry in America. I was learning about illness in old age that accumulates over a lifetime that I realized was from bad eating.
Hmm.
I put that together and I thought, wow, no one's very few in the population are thinking about this. It's really the hippies that everyone was kind of laughing at, who are understanding their body is sacred and such a gift.
Hmm.
And to maintain that, you have to eat the best quality food. And the food has deteriorated so much in the last decades because of ultra processed foods, because of the pharmaceutical companies, big, most of the big manufacturers are owned by a handful of companies in the world. And what I realized is they don't care about my health. They care about their profits.
Hmm.
So I decided at 19, I have to do my own research. I have to make my own decisions. I don't
Wow.
go to the government for my health advice or any advice. And I was forging an alternative path.
Wow. With 19, this is a really, really young age. I hope that many people which are 19 understand that much about it. And I would hope that a lot of schools understand it, that they have to start earlier with teaching the young people about what they do by eating fast food, which is more poison than ever, putting into their body, destroying the gift they were given.
Absolutely. It's world gone crazy, and you have to navigate through that. And there are more people looking at that. I know Gen Z is really a little more conscious about what they're eating. And, we have a classic organic consumer, but also the younger generations are starting to be a little more thoughtful about
Mhm.
what they're doing, what they're eating. I have three kids, and my 20-year-old son, the thing that he says most often is, body's a temple, body's a temple. And
Wow,
I think
right.
that's fantastic.
That's really great understanding, because in this digital transformation time, where everything goes so quick, where we think that convenience means being good for us, we
Mm.
don't understand that it's about the rural, the real, the basics. And I was so happy. My 6 years old son came a few days ago to me, and he said to me, "Do you know that it's important that on the ingredients list stands as little as possible. I said, why? He said, then food is better. We
Oh,
learned that today in school. I
that's
said, oh,
brilliant. Oh, thank
great.
God.
Because, of course, I mean, chocolate and burger and chips and all these things, they have so much intensifying tasting um, stuff in it that, of course, for the young kids, it's really, yeah, it's really nice and interesting and attractive to take that by not understanding what consequences this has for
Mm,
them.
mm. It's not all about taste. They manufacture that taste, and it's also addictive. It's made to be addictive.
Yes, exactly. It's like a drug. And I mean, you already said that when you were 19, it was another time. Your journey with Planet Organic began also at a time where organic food was a kind of niche concept, and the people were not that sensitive as they are today. I mean, we just figured out that many are not sensitive, but it was even more niche. What was the defining moment that you made say, um, I'm doing this. I have to do this despite all the challenges.
Mm. Well, it was a number of things that came together. So I came to England when I was 21,
Hmm.
from a small town in Massachusetts called Georgetown. And I came to date a guy I'd met on a night bus, honestly. And
That's
I
a
had
nice story.
no idea what I wanted to do or be. So I thought, well, let's delay for a couple of years, come to England. And in my first job, I realized I have to love what I do. I'm a very passionate person.
Right.
I um I hate being told what to do, so I decided I should probably have my own company. And the third thing was, from a spiritual perspective, that I wanted to do a good thing, that I wanted my life on earth, which is so precious, to make for me to be on purpose, and in that purpose to make a contribution. So I had that turning around in my head for years. And I worked in the wine trade, I worked as a journalist, I did other things. And then it was when I was 28, which is the Saturn return, when your profession comes back into your career, where I'd spent my 20s getting to know myself.
Hmm.
And my husband and I were in America, the guy on the bus. We'd gone back.
No.
Yes,
Oh, wow. What a great love story.
we're 40 years together now.
Oh,
I
great.
know.
So you're traveling from the beginning together.
Yes. So we'd gone back to America, done a six
Yeah.
month course in personal development and self-awareness, which has been so pivotal in my life and my journey.
Hmm.
And I knew I wanted an alternative career, something where people were seeking better, because I decided at 19 I was seeking better in every area of life. And I frame that as well-being. And when people
Hmm.
talk about well-being, they tend to say, as you referenced earlier, mental and physical. And one of the physical elements is food. But
Hmm.
I frame it in every area of your life:
Hmm.
physical, occupational, psychological, economic, social, and spiritual. And we'd done this course, and I thought, wow, I want work that addresses that and incorporates that.
Hmm.
And the simple story was, we went to see an organic supermarket in Boston, which is near where I'm from. And I felt pain in my stomach. I wanted it so badly. I looked around and thought, okay, this could be the vehicle for promoting health in the community and
Yeah.
supporting Earth's biodiversity, my two big pillars of inspiration and commitment.
Great. And I mean, you can send so many messages by selling food, by giving the people an idea how to spend it, but also how to use it. And while eating, it can happen so much spiritual. If you're thinking about the food itself, how it's produced, be thankful for that, then just more just than just the eating process, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. It's everything. And you can go very deeply into this. I've actually read a book called the Yoga of Eating, that you could go to
Right.
many degrees on this. So there's all kinds of things that we aren't aware of that are
So there,
transformative.
so there's not just laughing yoga, there's also eating yoga. And we definitely need to show this book here in the in the talk show because I already love it without knowing it. So we see each other back in 2 minutes. Stay tuned because there's a couple of great questions I have and much more great answers Renee will provide us. I'm happy to continue the talk with Renée Elliott, the founder of Planet Organic and of a coaching and mentoring business, where she brings together with her journey the spiritual, the food, the body, and of course the physical everything, but also the psychological part. Renee, we just talked about before the break about your journey. And your journey is a very incredible journey, not just because you started very early with understanding how much food means. You've started also very early to understanding how much you, as one single person, can build. And I mean, having you here, and we're in a virtual studio, you have so much, it is so much power which comes here through the ether um, by getting you, but on the other hand, so much resilience. And I mean, you were quite young when you started Planet Organic. And I could imagine that building a purpose-driven business often requires a lot of resilience. Um, a lot of resilience because on the other hand, you need a lot of power, but you need also a lot of resistance. So, was there a moment when you felt it's getting over your head, giving up? Um,
Yes, there was. Um, it took a very intense time. And,
yeah.
I coach entrepreneurs now, which is the my favorite work. It's the work of the heart. And I combine business and self-awareness. So it's a whole person process, which we've talked about from the beginning. But I started Planet in 1995 with a partner. 2 years
Mhm.
later, he decided he wanted the business for himself and tried to remove me by bringing me to court, um, bringing charges against me. So
Wow.
we ended up, after 14 months of litigation, in a high court trial for 11 days. But after 2 years of crazy startup, and then, so the litigation started in November 97, and I was in fight, flight, freeze continuously. I was in the amygdala. I was very stressed. And that summer, by August, I had run out of money. I don't come from privilege, so I had nothing left. The lawyers had taken a second mortgage on my house,
Wow.
did a lien on the house, and I'd borrowed, and I wouldn't take any more money from my parents.
Wow.
So, and I was exhausted and I was ready to give up. And I didn't know what to do. And everyone was telling me what they thought. And one of the most important things that I teach now is to listen to your gut,
Oh,
whatever you call that, your heart, the small, still voice, your intuition. All of the answers are there. And
yeah.
people love to give advice, and people who loved me were giving me advice. And I thought, I don't even know what I want to do. I can't get to my truth. So I
Mhm.
asked my best friend Julia, I said, look, come away with me to the Lake District. I just need to walk in the hills,
Mm,
find my answer. And I think we got there on Friday night. By
mm.
Sunday, nothing, no message, no burning tablet. I was like, oh my God. And I was kind of given up, and we had sat down by the edge of this lake, and the waves, little ripples from the wind were coming at me. And
Mm,
what I got to, because I was so ready to give up, I was exhausted,
mm.
um,
I
is I
can imagine.
realized that if I walked away, I would never know if I could have won at trial. And that if I stayed and
Very good.
fought, that if I gave it my best
Yes.
and I lost, I could live with that. But I
Yeah.
thought, I'm a fighter. I'm not a quitter. And I had read Sun Tzu's Art of War, the core
Mm,
message, which is know your enemy, which I did, and I was preparing very carefully for the trial, and I had read the Bhagavad Gita about the righteous war.
mm,
And so this was all kind of turning in my head, and I sat there and I thought, nope, I'm going to fight to the end, and if I lose, I will accept that with grace and dignity, and I
mm,
can start again. I was young, 32, and I thought if I win, then, here we go. And also
mm.
at that time, I was not feeling sorry for myself. A lot of people go into why me, and
Yes.
I thought, am I going to have a pity party? Who do I want to be as I journey through this? It's the
Mm,
most difficult thing I've ever been through in my life.
wow.
And I decided that I wanted to have grace and dignity. And that became my mantra through that time. So
Mm,
I stayed and I fought, and it went to trial for 11 days. It cost over £500,000, which
wow.
I did not have. I knew I would have been bankrupted as well if I lost. But I won at trial, and the loser pays the winner's fees.
Mm,
And I was granted Planet Organic, and I had to buy my partner shares, so I had to bring in other investors at that time. But it really showed me that you don't give up, stay and do fight the good fight. That's how I felt. It was right over might. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done. And I learned so many lessons from that. And the other huge lesson I learned on that journey was care of self first.
mm,
Because as a woman and now a mother,
mm,
I want to put everyone in front of me. But the only way you can sustainably show up for everything and everyone in your life is to fill your cup first. And it's not easy. I have to remind myself of that all the time. But I can't kill myself looking after other people. And that was a real takeaway lesson for me through that very difficult time. That if I didn't take care of myself and close ranks on myself and just kind of
mm.
surround myself with people who were supportive, eat well, I stopped drinking, I meditated, I exercised, I did everything to try and sustain myself and be resilient through that time.
Wow. I mean, it sounds like somebody is talking to me who was at the time already 60 or 70, but it has nothing to do with age, right? I mean,
No.
it has something to do with your inner wisdom, which is ageless. And I mean, sometimes I see the young kids, the very young kids, which know exactly what's good and bad for them, but forget later about it because consumer goods industry is proposing and giving them so much advertisement, which is convincing them. But
Yes.
thank
And
you.
that's such a good point because Annabelle, and you've said that because I believe that we know what's right for us. We know what's right and wrong in the world. We know what's right for us. I always say to people I'm coaching, you know what's best for you, you know what's
Mhm.
best for your children, and you know what's best for your business. But people don't necessarily trust that. And you absolutely have all of the answers inside of you. And that was the other lesson I learned through that journey. Trust myself and trust the unfolding of my life because things happen as they're meant to happen. It doesn't mean you have to understand that. I didn't understand it at the time, but I knew in the future I would look back and see a meaningful, clear path leading to where I am today. And that continues to happen in my life.
Renee, I think if there were more people taking you as a role model or just living in a similar way, then we would have really less people ill, less people sick. And the lesson you've learned, or you said you've learned, which is looking first after yourself. I thought when I was small that this is selfish. I had to learn the
Mm,
hard way that this is not selfish. This is the best way to take care of you and your loved ones and everybody else. Because if you are not in your power, and if you don't have, if you haven't learned how this works, and then give and give and give, then you get empty quicker than you think.
yes, it's a big lesson and it's something people struggle with. I do sometimes,
Yeah.
I do a lot of public speaking and I can have 400 people in the audience. And 20 years ago, I used to say, who feels comfortable putting themselves first? And you'd get like two or three hands. Now it's a lot more. Or I would say to people, who's the most important person in your life? And there would be hands and people would be shouting, my mom, my husband, my kids. And I'd say, wrong. Now the world's getting more savvy. Kids are shouting out, me. And I think, yeah, you got it.
Yes, this is funny. We are living in a world where, as you said, the economy, the consumer goods, food industry, they are totally selfish because they just look after money.
Mm.
But they are even not that selfish because they don't look after the kids. They don't look after their own health. And I'm sometimes confused when I talk to these people and say, don't you have kids? Um, don't you look after yourself? Often I get the answer, money comes first. I want to have a good life.
Oh
And
my gosh.
yeah, and
That's
then I say,
mixed up. Oh my
exactly.
gosh. No, and it's funny because that is so critical in how I started Planet. So I think this is a lot more normal now. 30 years ago when I started Planet, this was unusual. I
Mm,
didn't start Planet to make money. I always describe Planet as values led and commercially driven, and I wanted to build a business that was doing good for the community and for the planet and that people could trust, which is not generally how business had been. So
yes,
I was really forging a new path, but that was our key difference. And that holds true, obviously, today. And it's more normal to talk about that now and
yes,
say,
thanks God.
I want to do good and I'm not just trying to make money. Because I believe if you do good business, the money comes because money is energy, it's a flow. So you
Mhm.
don't have to chase it. You do good. And I knew there were enough people out there like me who were thinking about good food, about the environment, about organic. And it's not a huge proportion of the population, it's still small,
Hmm.
but we carry on and what we say is we go out. So we believe that whatever your question, nature has the answer. Because and we are part of nature, which is core to my thinking. So we
Hmm.
curate those answers and provide them through our teams in our stores. And in doing that, we unite people who seek answers in nature. So it's back to those when I was deciding what will I do? I knew I wanted to work with people who were
Yeah,
seeking better,
yeah.
seeking more, and really seeking answers from the natural world, not from the pharmaceutical world.
Hmm. Yeah, which has a very narrow thinking, the same as often agro industry and pharma industry,
That's right.
medical industry. It's all first the industry. And there's so much you can question because I mean, we are talking about industry, which are coming from nature, which are so close to nature,
Mhm.
but they are so far away from nature in the end. And I wished each of these people having responsibility, getting a coaching from you or getting a mentoring from you. When you look back, what was the most unexpected, beautiful moment in your journey of growing Planet Organic?
Well, that's so funny because I'm such a small town girl that I was so excited when Prince Charles came to visit, King
Oh,
Charles came to visit the store in 1999 in November. And he spent 45 minutes. I walked him around Planet. We had
wow.
won Organic Food Store of the Year through the Soil Association. And I had met him briefly, and he had said, "Ooh, I should come." I gave him this little 30-second spiel on what Planet Organic is, because a lot of people didn't know then. And he said, "Oh, I must come." And I held him to that and I emailed him about that. And then he came to the store. And for me, that was just such a moment for me, to have him there looking at what we were doing. And then I was invited to Buckingham Palace years later. The Queen invited, Her Royal Highness invited people to celebrate women in business,
Mhm.
and then a month later, Americans in the UK. And I was invited to be celebrated for both of those. So for me, that was like, oh my God, I'm at Buckingham Palace. You know, the prince at the time came to me, and then I was in Buckingham Palace. So, I that was just massive. My family were so excited.
I can imagine because I mean it's not just meeting a prince or and now nowadays king. It is about somebody who knows what what you've done, who can imagine, who has a great engagement in this and passion, and is by himself engaged, active in this field, right? So
Yes.
it's
And
not just.
it was being acknowledged. It was like I still felt like a young woman, and to be acknowledged in that way was just massive.
Oh, I can imagine. I really can imagine. I mean, moments like this, which can give you goosebumps, are good and important. But many entrepreneurs struggle with balance and ambition and well-being. What are your self-care rituals that have kept you grounded through the highs and lows of business?
Well, this is so core to who I am, what I believe and what I teach. And as I said, I frame that across all areas of well-being because your well-being isn't only your physicality and your psychological well-being. It's everything and anything that affects your world, which is everything in your world. So the golden thread through that is self-awareness. Because if you're not aware of what's going on or
Mhm.
what you're being affected by or buffeted by, you're at the effect of that. And what happens is people, when something happens and people feel out of that they're not in their empowerment, they go
Yeah.
into a contracted state. And awareness of what's going on gives you choice. Do I want to
Mhm.
react that way? Do I want to respond this way? So awareness is the golden through line. But then I frame that within looking at every area of my life and looking at, am I taking care of myself? How is my well-being across all of these six spheres? So I have so many practices, but the core practice, I think, I mean, other than eating incredibly well and
Yeah.
honoring my body in that, because I want to live well and long, not just long, I want to be vibrant and I want to be, if I ever
In a good
become a
shape.
grandmother, jumping around and, touching my toes, flexible and strong and high energy. But the core for everything I do really comes down to meditation. And I started meditating in 1991,
Hmm.
so long time. And I do a different practice now. And for me, that's the root of everything because it brings peace and stillness in
Yeah.
a very crazy, busy world and schedule.
What kind of meditation is this? Just for the listeners?
So I do samadhi, which means single
Mhm.
pointedness, and it's an ancient Essenic meditation, which is about really dropping the breath into the belly
Mhm.
and sitting with that breath. And if you go off into thoughts, which we do, just returning very gently to the breath. The idea is that you drop the body and then the mind can drop.
Thank you so much, Renee. I mean, we could spend here another hour. We could spend here a day together, and I love meeting you in person. There's so much to say, and yeah, thank you for taking the time to being here with us, um, and hope to see you very soon.
Thank you so much for having me. And if people want to get in touch with me, please do give out my email address.
We do. We
Okay,
will give some links, and you can
great.
decide whatever more we should share, maybe video, pictures. Let us know. We are happy to support you in any way we can.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was wonderful to chat with you today.
Thank you.